The Mirror's Secret. Mika had always loved antiques. There was something enchanting about owning objects with a history, things that had seen lifetimes before her. One weekend, while exploring a small, dusty antique shop in the countryside, she came across an old, ornate mirror. It was tall, with an elegant wooden frame carved with swirling patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. The mirror's glass had a slight cloudiness to it, but something about it drew her in. Without thinking twice, Mika bought it and brought it home to her apartment. She hung the mirror in her bedroom, admiring how it made the space feel larger. That night, as she lay in bed, the mirror caught her eye. It seemed to reflect the room perfectly, except for one detail. There was a shadow in the corner of the reflection. At first, Mika thought it was just a trick of the light. But when she sat up in bed and looked at the corner of her actual room, there was nothing there. The corner was empty. Yet in the mirror the shadow remained, faint but unmistakable. She shivered, convincing herself it was her imagination playing tricks on her. Mika turned away from the mirror and pulled the covers over her head, eventually drifting off to sleep. That night, as she settled into bed again, the shadow returned, darker this time. It seemed to shift ever so slightly, as if it were moving within the mirror. Mika's heart raced. She couldn't look away. Was it just a smudge? No, this was something else, something alive. She watched as the shadow grew clearer, slowly taking the shape of a person. It was a tall figure, its features blurry but its presence undeniable. Mika jumped out of bed and flicked on the light. The mirror showed only her reflection, the shadow gone once more. Over the next few days, the figure in the mirror appeared earlier each night, growing more defined, standing closer to the glass. Mika felt its eyes on her, though she could never quite make out its face. She began avoiding her bedroom after dark, sleeping on the couch in the living room. But the mirror's pull was strong. She found herself drawn to it, unable to resist checking if the figure had returned. One night, exhausted and frustrated, Mika decided enough was enough. She was going to get rid of the mirror the next morning. She covered it with a sheet and forced herself to sleep, hoping that would end the nightmares. But in the middle of the night, a sound woke her, a faint whisper coming from her bedroom. Mika froze. It was the sound of something soft dragging across the floor, like fabric sliding off the edge of a table. The sheet. She crept to her bedroom door, heart pounding. The sheet had been pulled away from the mirror, lying crumpled on the floor. The figure in the mirror was back, but this time it wasn't just standing there. It was reaching out, its hand pressed against the glass, as if trying to push through. Mika's breath caught in her throat. The figure's hand began to move, pressing harder, the glass rippling under its touch. With a loud crack, the mirror split, a jagged line snaking down the middle. A hand, pale and cold, emerged through the break, groping blindly in the air. Mika stumbled backward, terror overtaking her. The hand reached further, pulling itself through the shattered glass. The figure was almost free. She ran. Grabbing her phone, Mika called the shop where she had bought the mirror. She didn't know what she was expecting, but she had to try. An old man answered, his voice raspy. "That mirror," he muttered when she explained her situation. It belonged to a woman who was trapped inside long ago. She was said to have unfinished business. Mika's skin crawled. "What do I do?" she whispered. "Get rid of it," the man said simply, "before she crosses over completely." Without wasting a second, Mika grabbed the mirror and dragged it out of her apartment. She didn't care that it was the middle of the night. She had to be rid of it. She drove to a nearby river and hurled the mirror into the water, watching as it sank, the last glint of glass disappearing beneath the surface. She never saw the figure again. But every now and then, when she passed by a reflective surface, she could swear she saw a pale hand pressing against the glass just for a moment. before fading away.